Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl.
Hey, I met you. You are not cool.
With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am the smart. I am the smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-R-T.
And Josh Adams.
You goddamn communist heathen, you had best sound off that you love the Virgin Mary, or I'm gonna stomp your guts out. Now, you do love the Virgin Mary, don't you?
Visit us at ihatecritics.net, ihatecritics.com, Everyone's a Critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, the Everyone's a Critic podcast page, along with the group. Our Twitter handle and Instagram handle is CriticsPod. That's where we post our top fives, the 88 movies, the classics, trailers, and all our interactions done. So please head over to those social media sites and like us, follow us, friend us, however it works, and join the conversation. Patreon, ihatecritics.net/Patreon is the best way to support the podcast, get a credit on the show, get bonus episodes as well. I believe we have 3 in the can right now that you've heard, and we're narrowing down the next one that should be out here shortly. And, I mean, it helps us grow the podcast, so ihatecritics.net/Patreon. Then we have iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Go there, listen to us wherever you want, but if you could go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the show, and review the show, it's really important to help us grow. We will read your review on the air. Is that all my normal plugs?
Indeed. And moral support. We appreciate any moral support.
Yeah, I've never written that down once.
Well done.
I just kind of wung it. I think I forgot the Patreon last time. But this week, I know I posted 4 trailers largely just to be annoying because none of them are really... I mean, there's a couple good ones in there, but we'll start with the one I posted for Sean called Mrs. Claus. Of course, Sean probably didn't watch it.
I'm never going to have to see this. I don't know why.
No. I didn't watch it.
It's never going to come to the theater.
Oh, we didn't have to watch it? Of course I watched it.
I mean, we're going to have... The movie is so
I know
low
you're
budget.
trolling me, but you get him.
I wasn't trolling you. Did you watch the
Low-hanging
trailer?
fruit, man.
Did you not watch the trailer
I
at
watched
all?
it.
See, that's all I wanted. And now we're talking about it on the show. We're wasting valuable airtime. Talking about what looks like the equivalent of a Cadaver Christmas in terms of production quality. Even the font's kind of similar.
Yeah, it
You notice
kind
that or
of.
not?
It did remind me of a thing from when I was a kid, which is something that my sister and I always have shared. It's always check your back seat for Grace Jones. It's a Bond reference that we've always had. It's been, we were very paranoid as young people after having seen that. Grace Jones pops up in the back seat and stabs that guy. Yeah, I've always been a little paranoid about that ever since then. So now it's always look in the back seat for Mrs. Claus.
Well, plus I know you absolutely hate, when Santa Claus or the point of, you said it before at least, what's the point of having Santa Claus be a killer?
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why anybody would be frightened by Mrs. Claus. I don't why you want to ruin Christmas. That's what I want to know.
Every Christmas character gets their own origin story. It's like Star Wars characters. They all get their own origin story.
Why you want to
until
ruin
they
Christmas?
Yeah, right. I had never considered the idea of having a Mrs. Claus horror film. Like maybe a Mrs. Claus movie where it focuses on her and how she got to be romantically linked with Saint Nick. Okay, I'm cool with that. But as a horror film, I don't quite get it. But to be fair, no, there's nothing to be fair about. It's a crappy trailer for what looks like a puppet attacking people, and the font's pretty bad.
What?
Too.
I mean, I don't understand why anybody had this idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, low budget, easy to do. They could have probably done this for $10,000, if not less. I mean, it literally looks like I could have a Christmas. The acting quality looks the same.
You're in it.
I'm in it.
All we need now is that moment where one of the characters tries to mount a dead Mrs. Claus's corpse.
Yeah, that did happen.
Don't give away the ending.
That's the middle. Yes, there's necrophilia in Cadaver Christmas. But yeah, there's that. And then the one I posted for Josh, The Land of Steady Habits.
You know, it's funny. I was actually talking about Ben Mendelsohn on the radio today
Did you really?
I was making fun of the fact that nobody knows who he is.
Oh, well, crap.
No, this is funny. So there was a story going around that Hayden Christensen is researching a role in Toronto, and he's actually acting as a pizza chef and pizza delivery guy, and he's not wearing makeup or masks or a hat, and nobody recognizes him. Not a person recognizes him as freaking Darth Vader. Like, just nobody recognizes the guy. And so I was talking about people who resemble, people act. How would you recognize a celebrity if you walked down the street? And how many celebrities would you recognize? And I talked about Josh's Ben Mendelsohn thing. And I'm like, you wouldn't know Ben Mendelsohn if you saw him, would you? And he goes, that's your cousin? Who is that? Like,
Can I tell you a story? When I watched this trailer, the only reason I posted it is because I have some stupid crush on Connie Britton, and she posted it on Instagram.
Stupid crush? What are you talking about?
that's a great crush.
It's a great crush.
She is awesome.
But she posted the trailer on Instagram because she's kind of in it, I guess. And then I watched it and didn't think anything of it until I didn't know Ben Mendelsohn was in the trailer because I don't know who he is. I saw his name at the end of it, and I was like, oh, Josh will like this. I'll put it on her page.
Well, you're not wrong, but at the same time, I do have a thing for him. He's I wouldn't call him one of my favorite actors of all time, but actors that are working a not now. Yes,
He's been in this room. We've had this conversation how many times?
I know the name. I know the name. I just don't know. It's not like Josh holds a picture up of him when he talks about him.
One of these days, when he wins an Academy Award and we're all praising his work in Film X, perhaps this one? No, because it's a Netflix
Or
film.
we'll be pissed that Oscar Isaac didn't win. I mean, that's
Also possible.
Oh, man.
That's good stuff. But as for the film itself, it looks right along the same lines as a lot of other character work that he does. Mississippi Grind, in fact, a movie that I really kind of started liking him a lot in, where he showed that he was a real actor instead of just playing genre work all the time. This character reminds me a lot of the character from that movie, kind of down on his luck, middle-aged dude that's finally realizing what he needs to do. There's the line that I liked in the trailer where he's talking about he's kind of angry and rude, kind of like the guy you're sitting across from right now. And Connie Britton steps in with, "Oh, lucky me." That's good stuff. I like that. So I'll watch this when it's on Netflix, provided that there's not 5 other things coming out that week.
This was the Nicole Holofcener movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's an amazing director. So
I have heard that name before.
Always a good choice. She's really good.
Oh, he's a lot older than I thought.
62?
I would go with 53.
I'm sorry. I guess I didn't look his age. I looked at his picture and I said, he's a lot older than I thought. He's only 49.
Okay. Well, it's that Australian sun.
I just assumed he was a kid in this.
That's Thomas Mann.
2 names I'll never remember.
What? Man, poor guy. If he's that unknown, then we should get him on the show.
Well, he's clearly known enough, I guess, but
He's been in a Star Wars for...
That's right. He's been in a Batman movie and a Star Wars movie.
and Ready Player One, apparently.
Yes, he's the villain.
Oh, that's right.
Oh my God. Move along.
He's got one of those recognizable faces that you never put a name with, and then we say the name without the face, and then it's just they're 2 different universes for me that I've never been able to line up. And this is not going to help because it's still that bland of a face that it's not going to climax.
Climax, yes. A24, and this is the director of
Irreversible.
Irreversible, yeah. So this ought to be dangerous and terrifying and filled with horrors as anything he does.
Provocative. It's a provocative trailer. I'll give him that. There's a film of his called Love that I saw most of because it's on Netflix and it's rated NC-17, which is the reason I watched it. And
I think a lot of his movies are.
Visually speaking, it's a provocative film. And it's not just because there's a lot of gratuitous nudity in it. It is the way that he shoots the film. And the colors that he uses, it's very warm and sensual, and you can almost feel the characters coming off of the screen. That's what I recognize from it, not so much the gratuitousness of it, but the trailer itself. I mean, I don't have any affinity for dance like these characters do, but I feel like there's something else behind the plot.
Well,
I think I read that it's set in hell.
I'm on board.
Cool. Yeah, the director's name, I don't know how to pronounce
Gaspar
it.
Noé?
Gaspar Noé, yes.
Yeah, and he also did Enter the Void, a movie I could not get through a little bit. Sometimes I would think he's a little style over substance on occasion, but either that or I don't get it, one or the other. I'll admit it, but Irreversible is fucked up enough to at least be interested. Then you throw A24 on it, and I'll probably give it a shot. And then Ben is back.
Not much to talk about with this one. It's just two scenes, basically. I mean, it's him walking up and his mom seeing him and hugging him. There's not much to know there. It is Julia Roberts and Lucas Hedges, so I mean that's good. Who's the director?
I didn't see the director.
I didn't either.
Oh,
no, I know who it was. No.
Ben Mendelsohn. Actually, it's directed by Peter Hedges.
Peter Hedges. I know he's done something.
He has done About a Boy.
That's okay.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape he wrote. He's a writer.
Right.
As a director, he's not done much. Dan in Real Life.
Oh.
Pieces of April.
Oh, that's a good movie.
The Odd Life of Timothy Green.
Oh, no.
But if you go in order, if you said the first one was bad, the second one was good, the third one was bad, this one should be okay. I don't know. I like the fact that the trailer didn't show you anything. It made you wondering what's going on here.
Sure.
Yeah. Did he produce Lucas as well?
I don't know.
Like Lucas Hedges. Is he his father or brother or something like that? I was just
I'll
curious
do
about
some
that
research.
part. Why he would
He's
be
from
in
Des
the
Moines,
movie, but-
Iowa.
Really? Oh, nice.
See full bio.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're related or not.
Very, very quick trailer. It's about
He
as
is-
teasery as you can get.
He is the father of Luke.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Is he back from a rehab kind of thing? Has he been missing for a long time and his mom just knows what it is? But then in the trailer, what appears to be his sister says, "Mom, don't." Like, there seems to be something dangerous about that too. So I'm intrigued enough to want to know more.
And that kid's a hell of an actor. I mean,
Yes,
if you
he
saw
is.
Manchester by the Sea, you know how incredible he is.
I still haven't, because you guys have made me convinced that it could be one of the most emotional things that you could ever watch.
He's also in 3 Billboards.
Wasn't he also in? He was great in that. One of the best movies last year. Oh my God!
3 Billboards?
Saoirse Ronan.
Ladybird.
He was in Ladybird too, wasn't he?
You think you might be right about that, yeah.
All right, now we're done with the trailers. Let's go talk about our meetup. We had a nice crowd. What are you laughing for? There's 30, 40 people there.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Corey from IVMV did show up. So did Michael from Galesburg, formerly of the Awesome 80s podcast. I think it's formerly
R.I.P.
For now. But we went and saw Summer of '84, which from the director of Turbo Kid. We drove an hour away, got to watch a fun trailer for Best Friends, and
Yeah, I can't wait for you guys to see that.
and maybe we'll go back again because it was a fun place. I don't know, it wasn't too bad of a drive, but
Not the greatest seats. I'll say that.
no,
The seats were uncomfortable.
And sound, poor
Yes.
for me, at least. I wasn't sure anybody that could hear 50% more than me, like you guys can, whether or not it was good or bad. But it seemed bad to me.
I would have said sufficient. It'd been like watching TV without surround sound or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Am I wrong? It wasn't movie theater quality.
No, but it's not a full-time movie theater.
No, it's not. But what'd we think?
I liked a lot of it, like most of it, until the end, and then the end, it takes this turn that I don't care for. The idea is that these kids in the summer of '84, there's a bunch of kids who've gone missing. This kid named Davy Armstrong comes to suspect that his neighbor, played by Rich Sommer from Mad Men, may be the killer, and he begins to investigate with the help of his 3 friends. And it feels like a summer kind of adventure. It feels like kind of an '80s adventure movie. There's a Goonies meets kind of Stand By Me vibe to it that I kind of was really enjoying. This child bonding, this teenagers kind of bonding thing that I was really enjoying. And I thought the scares in the movie were good, but they were good in a way that was funny and kind of it really set you up to smile as opposed to be actually terrified. Like kind of a Goosebumps thing, which I thought was really clever. And they were legitimately, kind of scary, but like in a still fun way. We were all laughing during those scenes when they were supposedly scary, and then when you find out you were actually supposed to be scared, you're really disappointed.
Well, I guess I think everything was intentional. I think the laughing they were trying to, because there was cliches that were so obvious and on purpose, but they worked for that first 75% of that movie. So I had a ton of fun with it. I just think I like the fact that they tried to lay it all out there. I think you said in the car ride home, they didn't earn it.
Yeah.
They just kind of were like, all right, we're going to keep going and we're going to fuck shit up. And they do, but you're left going, well, but what's the cop car? Where'd he park? How'd he get the kid to the car? Why... Mm-hmm. He lives across the street. What's going? There's a lot of questions that they don't really. We came up with 4 or 5 better endings of this movie, including just stopping.
Yeah,
it would have been a great ending. The problem is it's with the ending on. It's an hour and 45 minutes, so they would have stopped at like an hour and 15 minutes apparently. But it still felt complete to me. So I liked it a lot until the end, and it was just like. No, this is really bad.
Yeah, I feel much the same way that you guys did. It's 95% of a movie. And
that's being nice. I'd say like 80%.
Because of the suddenness of the change in tone and the change in plot, everything that happens at that end is just so bizarre. And I thought for a moment, when I was driving home, I thought that you might like it, Bob, because you talk about how films don't always go that extra mile, and it's definitely scarier or whatnot when there's realism behind it. Okay, well, it just doesn't fit the rest of the film, and that's the real problem with this. So what they do get right, though, is I really felt for a long time during this movie, like, yeah, that's how I grew up. In terms of an 80s film, not only do they have great casting, the 4 main characters, these teenagers, have a great chemistry amongst themselves. And the girl that's involved in this movie is... They treat her character with some respect for a change, as opposed to other 80s homages which decide to get her completely naked and show you something gratuitous, and there's not a lot of depth to her character. She genuinely seems to care about the things that are happening to her, and so does the plot care about her. The music, this soundtrack is right up my alley right now, because I'm all on this retro wave pop thing that I'm so sorry because you guys like real music and whatnot, but I'm loving that stuff right now. It is right in my wheelhouse, and so everything is going for this movie to walk out and say, like, man, this is one of the greatest experiences movie-wise that I've had in a long time. They even get some camera angles right. At the very beginning and very end of the film, when they've got the camera up on high in that cul-de-sac, and you've got flashlights and whatnot going out, I spent nights like that with playing Manhunt with neighborhood kids, and so they catch this vibe dead on. They've even got a Tudor house, which is a Tudor style house, which is the main character's house. There was stuff like that all over the place in the 80s, and I have to praise them for what they did right, but then that choice at the end it ruins almost everything to the point where, I mean, it took the wind out of my sails more than any movie that I can remember recently. And I'm adding a lot more to this because I wanted to love this movie and I wanted you guys to love it so much too. It just misses the boat there at the end.
Oh, love is the right word. Yeah. Love, up until that point, love is the right word.
I was in it. I was in this movie for sure. They needed to stick the landing, and they did not.
Actually, they did. They just kept going.
Yes.
But I got to shout out Caleb Emery. He played Woody in the movie, and he was really great. I loved him from the first moment I saw him, and I was just such a sweet character, and he reminded me of like great friends I had when I was kids, and he was so good in this. And part of the reason why I hate the ending so much.
Yeah, and some of the character decisions that are made towards the end too, I don't understand why the friend group that you have does not have a moment together to understand what they've gone through. The film kind of abruptly just cuts right off. It's like, wait a minute, this is, if you were going to end it like this, you should have done it 15 minutes ago or something. And I guess you could say they're setting it up for possibly something down the road. There's callbacks to it in the particular story structure that they're doing here. And if it is an homage film, fine. But in terms of a straightforward story, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, and I have no problem with them switching the tone, but you got to earn it. I think that was the word, Sean, and they did not. No. You can't just do it. You got to. Yeah, you got to get there.
You can't spend 75% of the movie making us laugh and then expect us to be like genuinely terrified by the ending.
Yeah, the choice that they made that I thought was really, had they ended it right there, a great possible ending. I would like to hear possibly after the recording what you guys thought of for your 4 endings or whatnot, your alternate endings. But that choice to have the ceiling ladder come down camera-wise, wasn't expecting it, and I was like, oh, that's good. That's when you end the movie. Roll credits right there.
You could have done it there. You could have done it 2 or 3 minutes before that. You could have done it where they opened that room and they were wrong. You could have done. So that's 3 of them right there. We can get to some of Sean's later because it is spoilery if you get too far. We're being somewhat vague, but this movie is available on Amazon right now for $3.99, and it again for, I guess I don't know this percentage, but 75, 80, 90% of it is very, very good, very, very fun. It's the ending of Clerks where they shot Dante and then took that out. That's kind of what it is. They didn't build to it. They just flipped the switch without logic or a build. So
yeah. And in terms of a movie experience, I'll remember this one, movie wise, for as long as I'm on the earth. Traveling in somewhat stormy conditions, or at least pending stormy conditions, to a town that I'd never been to before. It's slightly cooler outside, unseasonably, because now it's Mercury right now outside. And going to this old-style theater with the marquee just the way that I was hoping it would be, it was exactly... It was like being a character in the movie all the way up until that last 15 minutes.
And then, we did have Michael from Galesburg, used to do the Awesome 80s podcast, and he's of our age, too, and he really is into the same kind of movies we are. And then poor Corey just sits there and watches us just say words and know what each other's talking about, and he's like, I don't watch movies. But he said to me later on, he goes, how weird would it have been if we didn't know each other? I showed up for your this meetup, not being a movie guy. I'm still me, but I don't know each other, and I'm just I just kind of sit there quietly and awkwardly. I thought that would have been pretty funny. But yeah, check it out. I'm curious what you'd think, but I'm pretty sure most people will kind of feel the same way as us, because it seemed pretty universal for most of the crowd, except for the people putting it on.
the police officer, you say he's from Mad Men. I've only seen a few episodes of that show, and so I didn't recognize the actor, but I couldn't get out of my head how much he looked like Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. It's just driving me crazy.
Yep, I thought the same thing. A.X.L, A.X.L.
Oh yeah, A.X.L. So this is basically. First of all, have you heard about what happened to the company that made this movie?
I have not.
So, Global Road Entertainment, they're the company. They're going out of business because of this movie. They are done. They're in receivership. They're going back to They got to sell all their products and get out of the business because this is their fourth straight bomb. They did Midnight Sun, they did Show Dogs, and they did Hotel Artemis. And they've lost nearly $100 million or more based off of those 4 films. It is so bad. And this one, of course, came out and made less than $3 million on its opening weekend. I don't know what the budget was, but that CGI dog had to cost something, so... Or CGI robot dog, excuse me. The idea here is basically somebody made 2 different scripts, and they thought, let's just put them together because we don't have enough for either one. And so you got a movie where you've got a kid who rides a dirt bike for racing. He rides a racing dirt bike, and he's got a story where he's, falling in with a group of kids who are, big-time dirt bikers who are professionals, and he meets a girl, and that's a story. And then on the other end, he meets a robot dog. Like, what? Why is this happening? Why are these 2 movies together? I don't know. It's such a weird combination, and it doesn't make any sense. This robot dog is basically like Johnny Five if he was a dog. He's basically evolved to have, like, actual dog-like qualities, and he becomes loyal to this kid and imprints upon him like it's Twilight, and he's basically the kid's dog now. And the evil corporation's got to get him back and kill the kid and reprogram the dog so he can go out and kill people on the battlefield or whatever the hell he's supposed to do. This movie's really dumb. I don't know. Global Road Entertainment, really, I'm glad they're getting out of business because they did not know what the hell they were doing. I think maybe in 1984, maybe you could have made this movie with like a cheaper looking dog, maybe.
It's like a Macamee to E.T.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, like make the dog a lot more like Johnny Five. Like make him like really cobbled together. Like that would make it more interesting, maybe. But make it in 1984, and then maybe you got a movie. But making it now and this painfully earnest as it is, it's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, when you said it lost over $100 million, I don't know how $100 million came out of those 5 movies, but yeah, that's bad business. You just got to remake something or get a franchise or something like that.
When you've got an 11-year-old boy who looks at it and says, oh, God, I'm not going to watch that, like, you've missed your mark by quite a long shot.
Well, no, just think about all of the, Hotel Artemis has like a couple of big name stars in it. Jodie Foster, Dave Bautista, you got Sterling K. Brown in there. Like, you've got some name actors in that one. But then Show Dogs, you've got all that CGI to make those dogs talk. And then this one, you've got a giant CGI dog. So there's all your $100 million budgets right there.
So the CGI was good?
I mean, yeah, I guess the CGI wasn't that bad, yeah. So that's where your money went, though. Is spending you spent all that money on really terrible premises and some okay CGI.
At least they tried, I guess.
Yes, they did. Good for them. Don't quit trying. Quit now.
I hate saying that because at least it's original.
It's true. It's true. But I mean, when it's this bad, though.
Although at least the top 3 movies this week are all original movies.
Put your top 5. Who's your top 5?
But speaking of trying and failing, the top 5 this week is worst robot movies.
I thought it was worst movie robots. I was all off on this.
Worst movie robots. Sorry. I read it backwards.
I thought I made the wrong list.
And no one else participated, and I understand why. But I will go ahead. Josh, you go since I pretty much used your list as mine. So
okay, number 5, Johnny Five from Short Circuit 2. Short Circuit 1, I still really like, although it's not very popular in this room. 4, all of the Transformers in the Transformers franchise, the Dinobots, the Decepticons, everyone sucks. Number 3, the T-1000 from Terminator Genisys. The movie's a mess. that robot's a mess. It means nothing to me. Number 2 is John Connor from Terminator Genesis. I don't care if it's a spoiler. Don't see the movie, okay? Jason Clarke's character in that, he's a robot, okay? It's a bad one, too. It's the worst plot twist change thing that you could possibly imagine. And number 1 is Annalee Call, Winona Ryder's character from Alien Resurrection. She's the worst android. She's the worst robot. She might be the worst acting performance of all time. It's one of the worst movies of all time. I mean, the whole thing is just a pile of garbage, and she's the worst part.
And then I put definitely the robot from Short Circuit 2, although I wasn't a fan of the first one, but more because my family liked it too much, and I got sick of watching it. Johnny Cab from Total Recall, just Googling shit, I don't know. RoboCop, the Transformers, and I guess to round it out, I put Chappie because I mean, I'm not as married to that as Sean. I really could not find another one I hated that much.
I really do hate Chappie. Axel's actually worse than Chappie, but
I didn't see that.
So. I'll say Axel's probably worse than Chappie, but Chappie's on my list. Along with, I did some research on this, so I went and watched this piece of shit movie. Roman. It's about a robot man from 1957.
So that won't be a classic.
Roman. It's called Roman.
Thank you for thinning the herd out for us.
I don't know if have you seen Logan's Run?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what about Box from Logan's Run? That was pretty bad.
That's a bad robot.
That's a bad one.
That's a bad movie that is actually, it could use a remake, they're going to eventually.
I kind of like the movie. I like the idea of Logan's Run, but the robot is really dumb. It's just called Box because he wears a box. Like, oh, hey, and the Killbots from Chopping Mall. I was not convinced. Those couldn't kill anything.
I thought about just doing evil, like worse as an evil, but then I got to the first 2 Terminators, and I'm like, I'm tired of doing this. I'm just going to take Josh's list and go. All right, Happytime Murders.
Happytime Murders, yes. Brian Henson, the son of Jim Henson, kind of lampooning his dad's work. The idea here is that puppets are real, kind of, but they're still puppets. They live in the real world and interact with humans, and a detective, a private detective, puppet, sorry, puppet, voiced by the guy who does Ralph now. I can't remember his name now, but he's former cop now. He's a detective because he got kicked off the force. And you'll learn that story as you go on. It's all a whole bunch of cop cliches, but it's funny because it's a puppet. And he's investigating a murder and a series of murders involving a TV show filled with puppets called Happytime. And the Happytime gang is getting murdered one by one. And they think it's for the insurance, but then there's a whole other plot going on. He has to reunite with his former partner, played by Melissa McCarthy, and investigate this series of murders, and the whole thing is just cop movie cliches, but it's supposed to be funny because it's done by robots or puppets, whatever.
Fucking A.X.L. Wrote in this whole episode.
So it's supposed to be funny because they're puppets, and puppets just doing human things it's just not funny. I think they made this movie thinking that they would have jokes in there, because people would find it funny because these were puppets doing this, and then they got to the end like, oh man, this isn't funny at all, but we made the movie. Because there's maybe a couple of jokes in there. Melissa McCarthy, she's going to hit one once in a while. But the thing about it is, Melissa McCarthy, I love Melissa McCarthy, and she's one of the funniest people on the planet, but she's great with timing. And timing, she's got a really keen ear for timing her dialogue. And when she's working opposite a puppet, the timing is off. She can't work because the puppet can't react to her. She can't get a feel for what the puppet is doing, and so her timing is off, and so she's not hitting as many as she does. She's got one really great funny scene is where she gets suspended from the force and she does a full on Jerry Maguire, which is absolutely hilarious. Leads to a great cameo by her husband Ben Falcone, which is the biggest laugh in the movie. But other than that, this movie doesn't have anything good about it. I don't hate it like a lot of critics are calling it the worst movie of the year. I don't think it's that terrible. I mean, because this is only the worst of the year if you haven't seen 15-17 to Paris. Or 17-15 or whatever the fuck it is. If you haven't seen that movie, then maybe this might be among the worst. But you also have to see, the what was that one I hate?
You got to be specific now.
Maze Runner. Yeah.
What about the supporting cast? I mean, it's got like Maya Rudolph, Joel McHale, Elizabeth Banks.
Like I said, they're all enacting these cop movie cliches for the most part, and Elizabeth Banks is barely in the movie. That's not even that's barely a cameo.
It's funny. No, our classic's rated G, and I told my wife we needed to watch the Muppet Movie with the kids, and she was like, "No, we're not watching that." Thinking, because our friend came over, and when we were at Summer of '84, she had a friend over who was showing her the trailer for Happytime Murders, and she thought that's what I was talking about. I'm like, we can't take the kids to that. Like, no, we're going to watch the Muppet Movie, our Undisputed Classic.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized Undisputed Classic.
Yes, the Muppet Movie from 1979, a classic movie. I love this movie. I didn't realize how much I love this movie until I watched it again now, and how much of my personality and my sense of humor was formed by watching this movie. This is such a smart, clever, funny movie. Kermit basically telling the backstory of how the Muppets came to be. They started their TV show in 1976, so this comes along 3 years later to give their kind of origin story about how they got to Hollywood. And it's filled with just all the funniest people in the world are basically in one place at the same time, which is awesome. But this is Kermit and Fozzie and Miss Piggy, and they're just the funny little origin stories that he comes up from, with a story that's running along with it, which is Charles Durning and Austin Pendleton chasing him down and trying to get him to be the spokesman for their Frog Legs franchise, which is... I loved the principled stand that he takes on that. No, I will not do that. He's great. This movie's wonderful. I mean, just beginning to end, the music is phenomenal. I mean, just wow, how great. I mean, they got an Oscar nomination for Rainbow Connection, but you can really give an Oscar nomination to any one of these songs. Yeah. I mean, they're all that good.
I also kind of grew up on the Muppets in a way, maybe a little more so than even some of the science fiction fantasy stories that you would think, because there's Sesame Street involved in that whole Muppet family too. And I know all of us at least at one point watched Sesame Street, I'm sure. That had some humor to it too, but it was mostly educational. It's like I paid my dues by watching Sesame Street in the morning, and then at night I got to watch the Muppet Show. And in the Muppet Movie specifically, I always confuse with Muppets Take Manhattan because of... watching them like back to back. They were on the same VHS tape that the beta tape actually. They were both taped onto the same one. So it was kind of like which one's which. We just kind of threw it in probably to shut us kids up. But this one has such a sweetness to it, and I would have to agree with you the humor part as well. I'm a big guy on puns, obviously, from listening to the show. Listeners would know, but there's plenty of them in this movie, okay? And there's plenty of Kermit kind of wryly looking at the screen and turning his puppet head as if to tell the audience, like, haha, you're in on it too, right? This is really funny stuff that's happening. It's not like gut-bustingly funny, but I had a grin on my face the entire time I was watching this. I hadn't seen this in probably 7 years or so when I started to introduce my son to all of the Muppet stuff because of the Muppet reboot or whatnot with Jason Segel and Amy Adams in it in 2011. It re-sparked all of that love that I had for these characters, and this is the start of it. It looks kind of old-fashioned too. There's a grain to the film, even on DVD, that makes it look like it's something that you remember watching in the afternoon when you were young. It's just incredibly charming. And that Rainbow Connection song, I get that it's cheesy. I get that some of the lyrics are a little out of place, but it makes me well up a little bit even in thinking about that song. If you guys are familiar with the show The Goldbergs at all, I watched Muppet Movie, and I'm listening to Rainbow Connection. I'm like, man, I love this song. And my son says, after the movie, I'm going to show you something. He shows me a clip from the Goldbergs, and it's the younger kid telling his sister, if you don't well up during Rainbow Connection, you're dead inside. I'm like, yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
This was directed by a guy named William Frawley, he's got an interesting story. He was in television for years and had absolutely nothing to do with the Muppets before or after making this, and yet he comes in and he absolutely nails the tone and the comedy. It's so perfectly like how I know Jim Henson probably had a lot more of a hand in this, and so did Frank Oz. But I mean, for a guy to just walk in off the street and be able to direct it so well and capture the tone of it so perfectly, because say what you will about him, he's got his name on the movie. I'm very impressed with his abilities. I've never seen any of his work on TV, so I have no idea whether it's consistent or not. But I mean, it's pretty impressive for him to have just adapted himself so quickly to this. But there again, he was an old man at the time he directed it. He probably had some vaudeville in him, and of course, vaudeville's a big influence on the Muppets, and so I'm sure that aspect of it comes to him as well. I love the humor of this movie so much. The thing that gets me every time is Carol Kane. Carol Kane's pop-up the second time is maybe the biggest laugh I ever had when I was a little kid, and now it's an even bigger laugh.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this movie since I was a kid, because I did not show my kids. We didn't go back and start watching Muppet stuff when they rebooted it recently, but I put it on, was it yesterday, and the first reaction was, oh, this is old. And my daughter kind of walked away and never really gave it a shot, but my son, he kept watching, and then he started explaining the Muppet Babies to me. He's like, yes, they were babies once too. Did you know that? That was my era. But okay.
How did you know that?
Well, apparently it's being redone, or it has been redone. My son told me that I don't even know this weekend. But I was so impressed to find that out. Like, Muppet Babies is returning, and then I realized, oh yeah, I'm 39. I shouldn't worry about this crap anymore.
But what I found, which it kind of helped me explain why I like Jay and Silent Bob so much, the Strike Back, because there's a lot from this movie that they use to make that movie. They look at the camera a lot and nod. Uh-huh. They're going to Hollywood. It's a road picture. It's just, I mean, it's not verbatim, but there was enough of it that I was like, oh my God.
I found myself also, with all of the cameos in this film, from Mel Brooks to Richard Pryor, Milton Berle and whatnot, having to explain who in the hell these people were. Literally none of these actors, except for perhaps Steve Martin from Three Amigos and Mel Brooks from Spaceballs, had my son even seen before. So it's really cool to introduce him to all of these different people, including Orson Welles, and tell him a little bit of the history. I paused probably 6-7 times during the movie just to explain to him who the hell these people were and why it mattered that they were in the movie.
This guy was in the Transformers cartoon.
I got a little sad when I looked there and saw those 5 Oscars back there and figured, man, he could have made 5 Best Pictures, What might have been.
So yeah, the Muppet Movie. Go watch it if you didn't watch it. It's a nice reminder.
An absolute true classic.
Couldn't agree more. I'm glad it won. It was fun to revisit that since it's rare that you get to revisit one you literally haven't gone back and watched since probably being 6
honestly,
years old.
I don't remember when I last watched it either, which is interesting.
If you guys like that as much as you did this time, I would suggest taking some time with Muppets Take Manhattan. I mean, anything post the show and Muppets Take Manhattan is a little skewed all the way up until the Amy Adams movie, but it's good stuff. It's right along the same lines as this.
Number 18 in 1988. Squeezed and pulled and hurt my neck in 1988.
Squeezed and pulled and hurt your neck in 1988.
1988.
Okay, well, we have a number of films to discuss. I'll get through ones that I didn't watch first. One called The Big Blue, or Le Grand Bleu. It's a French movie originally. It's in French, as I understand it. And the reason why it made this list is because it did make like a few million bucks, okay? And I noticed that the name Jean Reno is part of the cast. And knowing him from a number of things, including Leon the Professional, I thought, well, maybe I should put this on the list because it might be something that I could get to. Couldn't find it, of course, and maybe any listeners that have seen this could speak up to it, but it seems to be like two marine biologists have a long-standing feud, and so it looked like one of those foreign films that was accessible enough to Hollywood audiences where it kind of caught on.
Yeah, Rosanna Arquette's in it, too.
Yes.
They just stand across from each other, whipping starfish at each other, just...
like Lou with his boomerang fish. From the Muppet.
I don't know, marine biologist in a rivalry, what are you going to do?
I don't know. They're cultured in France. They probably knew what the hell they were doing when they made it. But also a Chuck Norris movie called...
You didn't watch this?
No, it is available to stream. Hero and the Terror. It's a weird title, okay? It just tells you, like, the plot right off, you know? Chuck Norris is going to be the hero, and the terror is a serial killer of sorts who he has to catch.
But then they have to come together to solve a murder together. So, because they're the
Silence of the Lambs.
The hero and the terror, they got to work together. The plot brings them together as partners, unlikely partners, like him and the dog in Top Dog. I'm sorry, I just love the time. The title just makes me think that they got to be to work together. It's such a stupid title.
It's a really stupid title. We assume that Chuck Norris does
it's the hero versus the terror would make more sense. Not hero and the terror. It sounds like they're partners in an unlikely buddy cop movie.
It does.
Or just call it Chuck Norris versus the terror. And he should just be called Chuck Norris in the movie.
Shouldn't it just be called The Terror? I mean, wouldn't that be a much more...
Why make it?
He had
why don't we
enough
go
money
back that far?
At this point in the 80s, it seemed like he had enough money to hire like people that he wanted to make the kind of movies that he wanted. Otherwise, why do you have Braddock Missing in Action 3? Why do you have the movie with Louis Gossett Jr. from last year that existed? He seemed to be making stuff that was very pro-action, pro-America, anti-communism, anti-everything to promote his own self-interest because he'd been successful enough up until that point.
Now he does infomercials.
Congratulations, Chuck Norris. I saw an article today. It had something to do with the 80s, talking about Hero and the Terror turning 30, and it showed a picture of Chuck Norris in action jeans. It was an ad for jeans that you could really move around in, and it was him in a karate pose. Oh, it was magnificent.
Oh, the chafing, though. I don't know.
Well, I know, man. Let me tell you. Okay, so also Betrayed. This is the one that actually made the most money this weekend, upwards of $30 million or so. Debra Winger, Tom Berenger, in a movie written by Joe Esterhaus. Now, that's important to mention because he is well known as a very prolific writer of sleazy material. Showgirls, Basic Instinct, this. And Betrayed even sounds like something where you're going to have some steamy scenes. You're also going to have some dangerous scenes. There's probably going to be a corrupt cop involved there somewhere. It's a formula that he had that worked clearly because this movie made money. And if you like Debra Winger, she was in a movie last year called Black Widow was last year, I think, or something along those lines, where she played like the one that was trying to catch the killer, played by Teresa Palmer.
87, right?
87, yes, I'm saying. Yes, it's not a recent
They haven't
film.
quite made Black Widow yet. They're working on it.
Yes, of course. But I haven't seen Betrayed. Have either of you?
No, but let's read I'll read the premise
Yes.
of it. An FBI agent posing as a combine driver becomes romantically involved with a Midwest farmer who lives a double life as a white supremacist. You kind of nailed it, but it was even more cartoony than you were saying.
Oh my gosh.
So wait, she's the combine driver and he's the... Oh, okay.
if you try and go search for this movie online, you will not find it. You'll find The Betrayed or Wife Betrayed or something that is got betrayed in the title, but it's not actually this. So you can't see it, even though it's the most successful movie from this weekend 30 years ago. Speaking of things that were released this weekend but not successful, Bobcat Goldthwait in the voice of John Candy in Hot to Trot. Also Dabney Coleman in here with an extreme overbite. Okay, now I have to talk about this because I did see this in the theater in 1988. It is terrible, even as a 9-year-old. You've got a talking horse that somehow the technology of making a horse talk is even worse than Mr. Ed way back in the day, but it's mostly the same idea where they're pulling on a horse's mouth or lip, or they're wafting peanut butter in front of them, whatever makes their mouth move so that they look like they're talking. But this horse, believe it or not, has financial advice for you. This horse will recommend the stock market jumps and falls and whatnot. And so Bobcat Goldthwait's character, who's failing at business or whatnot, but all of a sudden he meets this horse that can not only run races, but give him sound advice on his portfolio. And so take that whatever way you want. It's a terrible movie that has a terrible reputation.
If only he was a robot horse.
If only he was a robot horse. I did read a little bit about this in that they originally had Elliot Gould cast as the horse, but test audiences didn't like it so much, so they changed it to John Candy, thinking that would somehow improve the film. It does not.
Elliot Gould at least he was in the Muppet Movie.
Yes, he was. Okay, so there's two more to talk about. I'll go with Stealing Home first. Stars Mark Harmon and Jodie Foster. And Mark Harmon, when we open the movie, is back to playing baseball. Now, his actual age at the beginning of this film is like 38 years old, something like that. And it's already kind of a stretch to see him as a baseball player when we begin the film. But the movie has nothing really to do with baseball at all, which is unfortunate because I was hoping to see a baseball movie.
Considering the title.
What it really is, and most of the film takes place as a flashback. So Mark Harmon as a star is really a misnomer. It seems to be that most of the film takes place back in the 60s or the 50s, in which he's growing up and Jodie Foster is his childhood sweetheart / love interest that really understands him when no one else does. He's a hotshot young baseball star. His father passes away. She's there for him. And it's really a coming-of-age story. Now, Jodie Foster's character, the reason why we know about her is because the older Mark Harmon learns that she has committed suicide and he hasn't seen her in a long time. So the film has him going back home and trying to rediscover what happened.
Stealing Home.
Yeah, Stealing Home. Okay, so it's I got bored to the point where I had 25 minutes left in the film. And I decided not to finish it because I was that bored. And it's possible that Mark Harmon, hits the winning home run at the end. It's possible that
He probably steals home.
He probably steals. He does actually steal home in the film. His younger character does. So there's that too. It's a very, you've got baseball or sports movies in general that are really efficient at telling a story where the sports is analogous to life. And in this one, it's so very trite and obvious that it immediately disinterested me. Jodie Foster is really charming, though, in this movie, and you really want her to have not killed herself. I mean, it's that kind of movie. Have you guys seen it?
I have, because I've always tried to catch up with whatever Roger Ebert has written about as among the worst movies ever. The best movies ever, but sometimes the worst movies, because he's got that book about your movie really stinks.
Your movie sucks.
Your movie sucks. And this is one of the movies in that, Stealing Home. It's really, really very terrible, and he wrote beautifully about how terrible it is. So, it's awful. It is just damn near unwatchable.
So that crosses another one off of my baseball movie list. Next week when we watch 8 Men Out, that'll be yet another one that I haven't seen.
You've not seen that?
No. Trust me, I'm very excited about it. Okay, and lastly, my favorite 88 movie from this weekend, Crossing Delancey. Now, I argued that in my head at least, that this is the kind of title in the video jacket and everything was the kind of thing that my mom would have made me watch when I was younger. Like, oh, watch this cute romance with me, okay? And it's definitely something that would have been in her wheelhouse. I'm sure that she saw it. It stars Amy Irving and Peter Riegert. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But she is of Jewish descent, so she's got family in New York City that really wants her to get married. She's 33 years old, and she works for a bookstore. And she hasn't quite found the right guy yet. And so she's got her grandma working for her, a marriage broker in the area trying to fix her up with the right guy. And instead of everyone just being their cliche New York Jewish culture stereotypes in this film, it's there, but every character seems to have some depth to it. It's not just surface level stuff here. And I found this very watchable, if not slightly irritating, because of the music at the beginning, and the soundtrack in general is very irritating. And the beginning 10 minutes is kind of like watching a Mentos commercial on film, okay? Everyone's just very cheery and whatnot, but the film has a nice center to it, and Peter Riegert steals the show here. I loved his character in this, where he's kind of riding this storm of an awful character that Amy Irving plays, who can't commit to anything, and he's just constantly there for her. He's a very solid character, and I ended up enjoying the movie by the end.
I found his character kind of dull, but I found the whole movie.
Well, I'm dull, so that makes sense.
I found the whole movie kind of dull. He's a pickle man, you know. He's a pickle man, and I thought that's really just the funniest thing about him is the pickles thing. Like, there's people repeatedly calling him the pickle man. It's like you said, my mom probably liked this movie a lot, but I did. I was on my phone most of the time. After about 10 or 15 minutes, I just started scrolling Twitter, finding out what the president's done lately. Because as frightening as that is, it's more entertaining than this movie.
See, this is the kind of thing that gives me a break from all of his nonsense. I found it to be reasonably charming, and at least one of those 80s films that doesn't drive you crazy because it's so mediocre or poor. Compared to everything else this week in 88, it's a shining star as far as I'm concerned. But have you seen Crossing Delancey, Bob?
No, but I'm watching The Betrayed on YouTube.
Are you serious?
You
can't find it anywhere.
In fairness, I don't know for sure. It does say it in the corner, but I do have the volume off. Tom Berenger and Debra Winger are in it.
That's Betrayed. Yep. Oh, the one that got away. You know now what you've done. He's going to have to go home and watch it now.
Nah, he'll be fine.
I'll skip it, but I have to remember that YouTube exists. You know, once you get past you've searched Hulu, which I did. Uh-huh. You search Netflix, you search Prime, and it's not there. It's like, I don't want to have to open up another damn app just to find the movie. So,
and it's on. You can buy it at Amazon for like $30 on DVD.
Yes.
But yeah, it's not a very good quality in terms of, I don't know, aspect ratio.
Oh, that's quite okay. I've been, a lot of these 80s films I've been watching VHS copies of, etc. Bootleg, blah, blah, blah. So
it looks like they uploaded a VHS to YouTube.
Yeah.
But I guess that's our show. Next week, I just dropped my papers. Hold on a second. Prove that I really did. Operation Finale. I think Searching might finally come. And Kin. And maybe we'll talk about 2001 just because.
Yeah.
Since nothing else is really coming out.
I love 2001. I can't wait. We're going to see that, right?
Yes, we are. Tomorrow night.
You coming about?
I want to. It depends on my wife's situation. My son's first Cub Scout game. Cub Scout game.
He combined Cub Scouts and Cubs.
He joined the Cubs Scouts. And his first meeting is tomorrow. And I was supposed to do an interview that I have to bail my other podcast for because my wife has something else going on. So I'm hoping I can sneak out and get to it, but we will see.
My son has agreed to go with me, so it's...
So he may be leaving early.
No, he's sitting through this.
Is he ever like, Dad, this is boring. Can we watch something else?
I have given him every opportunity to not go, but he still says that he's really excited about it.
Oh, we'll also have Pappy on next week. But yes,
that's right.
I can confirm that Searching will be here. So
it's kind of a throwaway week.
Except we have so many 88 films, and I took Tucker, A Man in His Dream, and asked the guys, with no response, I might add, to just throw it on to a couple weeks later.
I totally missed that. I'm sorry.
Because it wasn't available to stream, and the Blu-ray wasn't coming out until the 28th. And I want to see this so bad for some reason, because I missed it in 1988, and it's a Coppola movie, and it's Jeff Bridges. It comes out on Blu-ray tomorrow, and I would really like to see if Amazon actually starts to have it streaming tomorrow, because it'll be available to at least purchase. If not, I am going to go ahead and order it because my excitement level is, at least that high. Also, our classic next week, because 8 Men Out turns 30 and John Cusack is in it, we finally get to bring High Fidelity to the show. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, but I haven't watched it in totality for at least 3-4 years, so I'm excited to bring it to the show.
Yeah, I'm probably even further behind than that. It's been a long time. I don't think I've seen it since the theater, if I'm being honest. And I remember liking it a lot. It's kind of Jack Black's coming out party, too.
Yes.
And then our top 5 is John Cusack movies. Hopefully I can find 5. But
my list is 18 deep right now. Like, that's how great it is.
I'm not a fan of it. I do like High Fidelity. I just don't like John Cusack. Although I'm sure I can find 5. He makes enough movies.
He was in Con Air, so that'll be on your list.
Well,
it'll be on Sean's list.
Didn't he do some horror movie with Matthew McConaughey?
He did with Samuel L. Jackson, 1408.
He wasn't in Frailty.
He wasn't. No.
Identity.
Identity is what I'm thinking.
Not Matthew McConaughey, but John McGinley.
I combined. I don't know why I thought. I just combined 2 different movies. But Identity was the movie I was thinking of.
You could always rent Cell. I heard that's really terrible with him and Samuel L. Jackson.
Such a good book, though.
He's also got Frozen Ground with Nicolas Cage he made recently.
He made a couple decent Stephen King movies, didn't he?
Drive Angry? Didn't that come out a couple years ago? Isn't that him?
No, that's Nicolas Cage.
Oh, whoops. Conflating the video-on-demand scene here.
I mean, basically, Hot Tub Time Machine is going to make my list, and I feel like that won't make most Cusack fans happy.
I am probably the biggest Cusack fan you would know, and you're fine. I understand. It's only the fact that he was in stuff that was good before that makes that movie good, but that's okay. We'll encounter that next week.
The stuff that's quote-unquote good before. Grosse Pointe Blank's a piece of shit.
I love Grosse Pointe Blank. That was a good movie.
Oh, it sucks.
You're just mad that nobody really dies in the movie.
I'm mad because it's boring and stupid. But yeah, that's our show. I do want to thank our Patreon supporters. Our key grip levels, Jason Bryant and Charlie Messing. Our character actors, Cousin Jeff, Christina Cato, and Josh Paul.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects level, Sarah Ward and Corey from Ivy Envy.
May the Force be with you.
Our associate producer is Jason from New Mexico.
Everybody has to eat shaving cream once in a while.
And our movie stars are Uncle Jeff and Dave Sievers.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
If you want to be a Patreon supporter, ihatecritics.net/Patreon. It's the best way to help out the show. Also, no matter where you're listening to us, please go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and review the show. We'll read your review on the air, and it'll help us move up the charts and get noticed amongst other podcasters. And if this is your first time or your 100th time or whatever, tell your friends, help us try to grow this audience, and maybe we can do more meetups and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess that's our show. We'll see you next week.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have. We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever leave each other. We're the best three friends that anybody can have. I mean, the three best friends that anybody can have. That's right, the three best friends.
Falling Down or Inland Empire. I have not watched Inland Empire.
Most people haven't.
I tried. It's a very long movie, if I remember right. Ooh, Falling Down or Django Unchained.
Django.
Sure. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, or There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
Agreed.
Yep. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, or The Ring.
The Ring.
Fishing with Gandhi.
Ring is not a bad movie. It really isn't. It is in hindsight. At the time, it was
okay.
decent.
Both Fishing with Gandhi and The Ring are better than Superman 4.
The Nutty Professor or Casino? 96 for The Nutty Professor.
Casino.
I still haven't watched Casino.
It's Casino anyway. Disturbia or Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire.
Mm-hmm. Resident Evil or Thank You for Smoking?
Thank You for Smoking.
Agreed.
Dark City or The Mask? Jim Carrey movie.
Dark City.
Dark City.
Yep. I need some fights. Come on. Thor, 2011, or Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders.
Yep. Serenity or $1 Million Baby?
Ooh, there's a tough one. Where do you go on that one? Gosh, I really love Serenity. $1 Million Baby.
Yeah, that's what I should choose, so I'll choose it.
I haven't seen Serenity, so I'll just take your word for it. Does that seem like a movie I would get into? Based on the cover, I'd say no, but I'm curious.
Well, it's Joss Whedon, so his kind of banter set in space, but like a Western. And the movie is here in quality. The show Firefly is like pushed down into the ground. I just couldn't get into the show at all.
Oh, the show's based on the movie?
Movie based on the show.
Yeah.
Oh. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 or Clueless?
I'll let nostalgia win out and say Clueless.
I'll say Harry Potter, but Alicia Silverstone at that particular time was my future wife, so hard to vote against it.
So she became your wife at some point? Or is she still going to be your future wife?
No. Not getting in trouble today.
I fell asleep like Clueless, so I'll go with Harry Potter. I liked her more in the music videos anyway. Kindergarten Cop or Hostel?
Fishing with Gandhi.
The 10 minutes of Kindergarten Cop that's good. I'll take that over Hostel.
I like Kindergarten Cop. Saw or There's Something About Mary?
Ooh, now there's a tough one. How do I make that choice? Because I love both those movies. Let's see. Trying to anticipate, because I like them both equally. I'm trying to anticipate which way Josh is going to go.
I'm going to wait and make Josh go.
There's Something About Mary.
Fishing with Gandhi. Something About Mary.
Yeah, I was leaning that way. Although Saw was one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever had. We've gone through that a million times. 2001, A Space Odyssey or The Exorcist?
2001.
2001.
Probably that, but I like The Exorcist a lot. Presto? I've never seen that.
That's that little bunny movie from in front of the Pixar, one of the Pixar movies. It was in the hat, the magician's bunny thing. Yeah, it's a short, so you can just move on.
Deep cut.
Darn. District 9 or Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park.
District 9.
I kind of like District 9 better. I thought we were going to lose that one, but then I realized we're on the same team. It's one of the few movies we play.
Yeah. That and Heat. You and I can do that all day.
But we can fight now. Speed or Return of the Jedi?
Well, I know I've got a teammate
I'll
there.
save you on that one. Return of the Jedi.
Agreed.
Shanghai Noon or Sunshine?
Ugh, Fishing with Gandhi.
Oh, that's your actual choice. Okay, I'm choosing Sunshine. That does remind me. We didn't have any news, but Danny Boyle is out as the Bond director for the next movie, and at this point, I mean, I don't know why they would bother. Because as a director, you have to adapt to whatever they want you to do. Daniel Craig's also making decisions, and they disagreed over a villain. He didn't want the guy that Danny Boyle wanted to cast as the villain, which seems very strange. Why you would say, yes, Oscar-winning director, go away from my Bond franchise because of the guy you wanted as a villain. Does not work for me. Who the hell does Daniel Craig think he is?
I mean, he's never done anything other than Bond. I mean, he's not a movie star. I'm sorry, he's not. He's failed everything that isn't Bond.
Road to Perdition, Layer Cake. I own both those movies, and I like Daniel Craig a lot in them. So I disagree
Box
with
office.
you, but Road to
I'm
Perdition
talking
was a
about
successful movie.
because
Right,
Tom
but
Hanks
he's
was the
not.
star.
But you have to be the one who draws the money, and Daniel Craig's never been.
He's never drawn a dime outside of Bond.
He's been in movies that did well, but never. He was never the draw necessarily.
You're right about that. The Golden Compass, the Invasion, blah, 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 didn't work. I get it. I do think, though, that Layer Cake was a successful film that was not, like widely released, seen by everyone.
Right.
I think it's a cult classic type of movie. And that's what got him the Bond role. But we're all agreeing that there's no reason why Daniel Craig should be making decisions like that, right? I found it weird.
It's truly, truly foolish on the part of the makers of this film to bow to him, especially since this was supposed to be... He's not even supposed to be Bond anymore. He's supposed to be done already.
Right.
So I didn't know he was back.
Yeah, he's playing it one more time. He was under contract for one more, too. And then you get Danny Boyle to do a Bond movie, and then you say, sorry, we have creative differences here. No, you're the difference. You're the problem.
Especially when it's almost guaranteed to make money just by coming out.
Yes, exactly.
Each of these kind of crappy Bond movies have made money, so...
Mm-hmm.
So you can try your little artsy Bond movie that Boyle wants to do, and it's still going to be successful, I think. Dances with Wolves or Thelma and Louise?
Thelma and Louise.
Dances with Wolves. The extended cut. Best 4 hours of sleep you'll ever get.
Thelma and Louise. Old School or Money Train?
Old School.
Boy. They're on par. Yeah, I guess it's Old School.
I don't understand hate's not the word, but how everybody's not in love with that movie, I don't know.
Old School? It's Luke Wilson, man. He just annoys the shit out of me.
I thought it was Owen that bothered you.
Both of the Wilson brothers bother me.
But his nose is okay.
Their parents also bother me, I'm sure.
Jesus. Let's see. The Simpsons movie or Return to the Jedi?
Ooh, I'm actually going to go Simpsons movie on that one. I love The Simpsons. I'm not a fan anymore, but I mean, The Simpsons movie is really hilarious.
Speed's a great action movie. I'll take Speed over the Simpsons movie, so I'm going to Return to the Jedi. Fuck you.
Wait a minute, everybody. Bob just picked a Star Wars.
He picked Raiders earlier. What the hell's going on? Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't
Simpsons
much competition.
is really funny.
I know, I like
really
it.
Funny movie.
But Speed's a phenomenal action movie.
Yeah, but Return of the Jedi is better.
Speed's better than The Simpsons. So
No.
it's hard for me to... X2 or The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Nightmare Before Christmas?
I'll take X-Men United. Nightmare Before Christmas, I mean, it was good, but the type of like legendary level that a lot of people put that one on, where it still is in the public eye like 25 years later, when I don't quite get it. It wasn't that great.
It's more that gothic imagery.
Yes, it is.
Anything
Yes.
else. But I'm with you. I like X-Men 2 better. And let's see what wants to go up against Psycho. Black Swan.
Oh, good one. I'll still go Psycho, but I love Black Swan.
I will go Psycho as well.
Yeah. Black Swan's amazing, though.
Yeah, it is.
All right, we can be done unless this is amazing, and it is not.